Show me clearly, clearly show me. I will wait for thee. Show me clearly, clearly show me. I will wait for thee. I will wait for thee. I will wait for thee. I will wait. I will wait for thee. Show me clearly, clearly show me. I will wait for thee. Show me clearly, clearly show me. I will wait for thee. I will wait for thee. I will wait for thee. I will wait. I will wait for thee.
Hey, 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 happy Sunday, beautiful people. It is so good to be here with you yet again as we come together to celebrate what is true and to affirm and know all that is true for us and continue to feed ourselves as we move through our week.
Yes, yes. Happy Sunday, everybody.
This morning, we, of course, will always start with prayer, and this morning, our prayer champion, Reverend Akila, will lead us in prayer.
Happy Sunday, Celebration Spiritual Center. Let's take this time to connect to the divinity within. So take a moment to close your eyes. Breathing in here and breathing out now. Breathing in peace and breathing out presence. I rest in breath, knowing that there is one power, one source, one generator of my life. And I refer to this source, this infinite supply, as Mother, Father, God, all-encompassing spirit, omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence. God is right where you are, and God is right where I am. I am connecting to this presence in me right here and now. And I know that I am in the small where God is in the large. And what is true for me is true for you, my brothers and sisters. And it's from this place, from this awareness that I know we are all streaming in this one consciousness, this one mind, this one love, this one grace that permeates all circumstances. And I am knowing that we are here opening to the possibility, the fullest expression of our light. As Pastor Greg and Pastor Yolanda speaks a word that illuminates the dark places and spaces, that illuminates the light that already exists, allowing it to shine brighter, bigger, and in the name of love, in the name of God. I am so thankful to be here at this time in this way, knowing that I am well prepared, well placed, and well provided for. And I am knowing that this service will meet more than my expectations. I am knowing that I am open to hear with a clear ear. I am knowing that I am seeing behind my closed eyes the goodness of this space, the goodness of you, the greatness of it all. And as we expand together, unifying, solidifying our one mind, our one body, our one spirit, we celebrate today. We celebrate the rise of the sun within us. We celebrate the healing that is occurring right now. We celebrate the increase in our finances. We celebrate community. And it's in this community that we find our immunity. And we grow stronger. We grow wiser. We grow more in love with each moment. We grow more in love with each other. For celebration is the evidence of God. And it's from this place that I know that the law is active and at work. And that all our wants are wanting us. All our wants are already done. All is well. And together, let's affirm our worthiness. Let's affirm the richness of this experience at Celebration Spiritual Center with an amen, ashe, and so it is. Thank you, God.
Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe,
And
and so it is.
So it is. Yes, we are grateful. So, first and foremost, if you are a first time guest, if you are joining us, this is the first time you're streaming in with us, welcome. It's good to see you.
there.
It's good to have you here. Say hello in the comments, in the chat. Let us know where you're connecting in from. But more importantly, we want to stay connected with you. And so you'll see here on the screen, if you just text the word welcome to this phone number, 347-472-1078, just the word welcome, no other signatures, no other emojis, you'll get a response back asking for your information. And from there, we'll be able to add you to our mailing list. We have a weekly email that goes out every Friday. And so you'll be abreast of everything that's happening at CSC. We're going to get into some of those things and what's happening, but it's always great hesitate to have it in email. You can forward it to friends and family. There are clickable links there, which is always helpful. So again, if you're a first-time guest, please text the word welcome to that phone number, and we look forward to staying in touch with you and staying connected to you. So with that, let's get into some of the announcements and things we have happening before we get into the meditation. So let's see. Well, the first thing we want to remind everyone about, first, just thank you for everyone
Yes.
who has completed the survey. So many of you have, and we appreciate that. But we still need to hear from more folks. There's maybe about 50 to 60 people that have currently filled out the survey, but we have about 100 to 150 people every Sunday. So we know that there are many voices that aren't being heard and recognized, and we want to hear from as many of you as possible. This survey will remain available until the last Sunday in this month, which is September 27th. So go to the website, celebrationsc.org/COVID-survey, and complete that. Please answer as honestly and openly as you can, so that we have a really clear idea of just the feeling tone within the community, those that are want to come back, those that don't feel good about coming back. We need to know all of that. I also want to preface this with, this is just a gathering of information.
Yes.
We actually cannot go back physically into the space that we're currently in. We are still awaiting a host of answers from Restoration Plaza and clarity from Restoration Plaza. So nothing is happening anytime soon, but we still need to do our due diligence to gather this information so that we can properly create a plan when it's time to do that. Let's see, what else is going on? We've been talking about voting. We started talking last week about voting. And the most important thing that we can admonish you all to do and to be about is having a plan. Because there's so much going on. Voter suppression is real. It's still really hard for me to wrap my mind in 2020 that we're having to think about and deal with these things that our ancestors dealt with and marched and bled and died for and around. But it's very important that we're deliberate and intentional with our vote. So first, plan your vote. If you haven't registered to vote, please register to vote. There's still plenty of time to register to vote. If you are registered to vote and early voting is available in your state, vote early. Right? Very, very important. We're expecting massive crowds, and there's other things going on. So voting early is a good idea. Additionally, most states are allowing for absentee ballots due to COVID-19. So request an absentee ballot. Many states, it's still even a good idea to do that. Even if you were planning on voting in person, take your ballot in person. But when you get that absentee ballot, more importantly, send it right away. Get it, complete it, put it right back in the mail, so that you're allowing more than enough time for that ballot to get to your board of elections. And finally, plan for long lines. If you are going to vote in person, again, we're expecting massive crowds, and unfortunately there will be some level of suppression even around certain states. So it's important that you plan for the long lines, pack a lunch if you need to, bring a snack.
And just for clarification, there's been some discussions, I've seen them online. Can you vote in person and then also mail in no, you vote once, but if you decide to do it via absentee ballot, take it to the location. Right?
Yeah.
Just making sure you can only vote once.
You can only vote once, so choose whichever path you want.
As part of your plan.
You can vote in person, you can request an absentee ballot and mail it, or you can request an absentee ballot and take it
off,
to your polling place, okay? Very, very important. The other thing in terms of voting, we have a list of resources here, and we actually sent out these links in our email on Friday. So again, clickable links. But go to vote.org. You can find out information about registering and all of the details for your individual states on how long you have until you to register, what that window is. It's different for each state. And just other great resources around voting. I Am a Voter, which was started by the NBA, powerful resource. WhenWeAllVote.org, Michelle Obama's organization, supporting voting this time around. Black Voters Matter Fund, and fairfight.com. Stacey Abrams is doing great work to make sure that we have free and fair elections in this cycle. Finally, if you want to get even more involved, you can choose to become a poll worker. And I'm not sure when the cutoff is for that, so if you're interested in this, you should do it as soon as possible. But we do recognize that with the massive turnout that's expected, but also because of COVID-19, many people who would normally be at the polls to work the polls actually are in a high-risk category, and so they need to stay home. And so we want to be supportive of our sisters and brothers who have supported us for so many years in this way. And so there is a great need for poll workers. So you can go to powerthepolls.org to find the specific information for your state. PY and I both have registered to become poll workers. I checked the other day, my application is still waiting. I'm waiting for it to be verified or confirmed, and all the stuff that needs to happen, but I'm looking forward to being able to serve on that day in that way.
And with that in mind, if you have an inkling that this is what you want to do, go ahead and register now, because it does take a minute to get a response, okay?
Yeah, and there's so many people registering.
And that's so exciting.
Yeah.
So exciting.
The other big thing that we want to be mindful of as conscientious and conscious woke citizens is to make sure that we are also completing the census. This is the last month to complete the census. The deadline was moved up. So you have until the end of the month, September 30th, to complete the census. It's very important because it impacts so many areas of our lives. If you have not done the census yet, just go to my2020census.gov and make sure that you complete it. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes, if that, definitely 5 minutes. Or probably or less, but 5 to 10, depending on how many people are in your household. It's quick and easy, and it has lasting impact. We don't get to do this again for another 10 years. One little programming note for next week, and we apologize because I forgot to take this out of the email, but next week's God Talk is canceled. The September God Talk is canceled, so we will resume the God Talk again next month on the third Sunday. We all love the God Talk. I know we will miss the God Talk, but we will not have it next Sunday, so please keep that in mind. If you have a prayer request, we have a prayer for you. We, PY and myself, along with the prayer champions, hold and know the truth with you daily. And we do that through daily prayer. And so if you have a prayer request, just send an email to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. We will receive that, and we absolutely will pray and affirm and know and hold the truth with you. Make sure that when you're releasing that prayer, when you press send in the email, see it as a release, see it as a letting go, so that you can make yourself available to what Spirit is speaking, what Spirit is saying, so that you can make yourself available for insight and guidance. Don't send that off, the request, and then you're still in fear, doubt, and worry, right? Additionally, every Wednesday morning, we have prayer, in-person prayer. It's the Daily Momentum Prayer Call. It happens every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so the information is here on the screen. All you have to do is call in at a little before 7 a.m. And I share that day's reading from the Daily Word. And after sharing that day's reading from the Daily Word, then our prayer champion will lead us in prayer. That prayer is recorded, so you'll see there's a playback number. Keep that number handy, because you can call in at any time, 24/7, to access the most recent prayer. You don't have to enter a code with the playback number. Just simply wait, and the most recent prayer will play.
Actually, put it in your phone.
Yes,
Put it in your phone. So all you got to do is pull up playback, prayer playback.
Yes. Couple other things. Make sure you can see what's happening. Couple other things. At the end of this month, we will hold our second and final After the Sermon book discussion on September 27th at 1 p.m. In order to get the information to join that powerful Zoom, we had a wonderful time a few weeks ago in discussion, and there's so much more to discuss and talk about and allow ourselves to feel all the feelings around. We recorded that previous session. It was awesome. There's more to talk about. And so in order to get that link, you need to be a part of the book group. How do you join the book group? It's very easy. Just go to this website, celebration.sc.churchcenter.com. When you get to that page, click the option for groups. And after you click groups, then you will see the option to join the CSC book series, The Sun Does Shine. Click the wonderful multicolored gradient button that says join, and you will be able to join the book series group. And you'll see in the events section, you'll see the information for the Zoom. You'll also receive an email 3 days prior with all of the information. So that's how you join the group. We had a bunch of folks in the conversation last time, and so we would love to see.
And now that the book club group is just for that group, it's not anything else. Just join that group. There's so much information and resources and video content.
Yeah.
You'll want to have that, and just to actually see Brian Stevenson and Anthony Ray Hinton. I just love their conversations that they have.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a beautiful thing to put the face with this voice, this beautiful voice that has been speaking to us and guiding us through this powerful experience. It's wonderful to hear and see them as well. We have those resources there in the group. And now it is time for us to go within, and PY will lead us in meditation, as she always does so wonderfully.
Good morning again. We are enjoying this month's concept, this month's affirmation and theme. I feel the love of God within me now. I feel the love of God within me now. The love of God created me, A Course in Miracles says, and the love of God is everything that I am. It's a beautiful idea, but it's more than an idea. We have to move it from our head to our heart and throughout our whole body. I feel the love of God within me now. We have so many concepts that we learn, so many books that we study, so many ideas that we try to apply. But if all we're doing is just reading information and collecting information and not having a visceral experience of God within us, it's just information. And we want to do more than that. We want to feel connected because we are. We want to know we are the love of God because we are. So let's go ahead and find a comfortable seat. And whether that is upright in a chair, sitting on your sofa, upright in your bed, wherever you find yourself comfortable and at peace right where you are now. And as you settle into that comfortable seat, go ahead and close the eyes, signaling the body that we're going to take the vertical descent into the depths of our being, into where the connection resides, into where the peace is operating. With our eyes closed, we begin to notice ourselves from the inside. And with our eyes closed, we begin to feel and witness the breath as an example of this love of God within us now. And as we are noticing this breath, love has no judgment, and so we place no judgment on the breath. We just feel it moving, whether it is deep or shallow. We feel the breath and the love of God. activated within us now. Let's just notice a few rounds of breath. Beautiful. And now from this deep well of breath and love, let's bring ourselves into conscious control of the breath. Bring your mind in focus into the low belly to begin our 3-part breathing. Now, mind focused, breath activated. Inhale into the low belly. Inhale. Hold it there. Relax the jaw, open the mouth, and release the breath. Again, inhale into the low belly. Inhale. Hold it there. Feeling expansion of the breath into new places. And release. Inhale into the low belly, now up through the rib cage, connecting part 1 to part 2. Inhale. Hold it there, expanding the front and the sides and the back of the body. Open the mouth, relaxing the jaw, release the breath here. Again, inhaling up through the rib cage, feeling the expansion of the ribs. Breath moving into areas previously closed to us. And release. Now inhale in and up through the heart, elongating the lungs, connecting to the heart, center of the chest. Hold it there. Open the mouth and let it all go. Again, inhale in and up, feeling the breath, center of the chest, heart chakra, creating new set point. Open the mouth and let it go. Let's take a few rounds on your own, inhaling in and up and out, feeling the love of God moving on the breath, and on the release, knowing that we're making room for more love. Last time. Beautiful. Everyone inhaling again, because it feels good to know we're connected to this breath and this love. And on the exhale, close the lips and exhale through the nose. Because it feels good to practice a full breath, take a few rounds here, in and out through the nose. All this love that created us, all this joy that is within us, all this power released through us is here now. We feel it, the love of God. Let's bring our focus to the feet. Inhale and release. Maybe spreading the toes, feeling the earth beneath us. Relax the feet. Energy of this life force connecting in through and as us, feeling it alive. Feeling the energy connecting underneath the feet, flowing across the ankles. Relax the ankles. Imagine that energy traveling up the shins and calves. We make room for this love here now. Relax the shins and the calves. Energy flowing across the knees. Relax the knees. As we surrender in this moment, bringing our will and our life force in alignment with the truth that we feel the love of God. Send that energy towards the hips. Relax the thighs, the glutes, the hamstrings, making its way to the hips. Relax the hips now. Energy gathered must rise, and so we allow this energy assembled at the base of our spine to begin to rise now. Activating the subtle body, opening each chakra on its way, its ascent, rising up, up, out the crown of our head. We imagine it gathered above us, eliminating any distance between us, connecting us all. And now we feel the love of God flowing down through the crown, crossing our third eye, opening our throat, across our shoulders and down our arms, out our fingertips, an open channel, giving and receiving, inhaling and exhaling, and feeling the love of God alive within us now. At this point, I invite you to turn the palms up to continue to receive, or turn the palms down to ground. Relaxing the shoulders back and down, and bringing the focus to the heart. The love of God created us. The love of God is everything that we are. We give this love permission to activate not only our heart, but every cell in our bodies. We feel them come alive, absorbing all of this energy and love now. Speak to the cells of your body in the affirmative. I feel the love of God within me now. I feel the love of God within me now. And as we prepare for our silent time, I will monitor. You take the internal journey. And if the mind wanders, it's okay. When you become aware, lovingly remind yourself that you feel the love of God within you now. And from this place of awareness, we connect, allow, open to receive love now. With our eyes still closed, we remember that the love of God created us. The love of God is everything that we are. This love proclaimed us as its children. And this love is what sets us free. With our eyes closed, we take this mental picture. We feel ourselves transformed. We feel ourselves more alive in this truth. We remember this feeling throughout the week. When we feel disconnected, we speak these words. I feel the love of God within me now. We close our eyes and we breathe. We have created new pathways, new neural connections, and we are grateful for that. With our eyes still closed, begin to just bring yourself back slowly. Maybe wiggle the fingers and the toes. Maybe place the palms, if they turned up, turn them down. And gently relax and feel the love of God flowing across the knees. Maybe gently rub the knees, waking them. The love of God is not going anywhere. It created us, and it remains. And from this place of awareness of our connection, go ahead and bring your palms together at heart center, where the love is symbolized. Bow your chin towards your fingertips. Pausing for a moment just to notice the beating of the heart. And then slowly flutter the eyes open, taking in a point on the floor somewhere in front of you. Nice soft gaze, no strain of the eyes. Now inhale, raise the chin, raise the gaze. Namaste.
Namaste. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, PY.
Oh, you're welcome.
So in this moment, we are going to hear from Soul 21, and after a song from Soul 21, then we will move into today's sermon. So let this song, let this music speak to you, and I pray that it finds you right where you are. One of the attributes of God that we must come to understand about this presence is that it is omnipresence. Not omnipresent, but omnipresence, meaning that the presence of God is everywhere. The presence of God is with you in the valley, and the presence of God is with you at the top of the mountain. The presence of God is with you when you are in joy, and the presence of God is with you when you are in sadness. The presence of God is with you when you are in mourning, and the presence of God is with you when you are in celebration. It is omnipresence, everywhere at all times, constantly encountered. And because that is true, then we can affirm these words that wherever I am, that's where God is, and all is well. That's where God is. Wherever I am, that's where God is. And so I can affirm that all is well. I'm going to sing that one more time. Wherever I am, I may be mourning, I may be grieving, I may be in sadness, I may be disappointed, I may be frustrated, I may not know what my next move is, but wherever I am, the all that is, the power that will get me out of the situation, the power that will show me the answer, the intelligence, the love, the good is right there where I am. Wherever I am. That's where God is. And all is well. I'm so grateful and thankful. I don't have to look for God. Because God is within. When I'm in a situation, the last thing I want to do is search. All I have have to do is go within.
God is within.
I don't have to look for God.
Have to look for God.
God is within.
God is within.
And all is well.
And all is well. I don't have to look for God.
No, 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 no.
God is within.
God is in me.
I don't have to look for God.
God is within.
God is within.
For God feels good. In love we live, we move and have our being. In good we live, we move and have our being. In joy we live, we move and have our being. Because the thing about God, the I am that I am, it will become whatever you need it to become in the moment that you need it. So when you need healing, in healing we live, in healing we move and have our being. When you need comfort, in comfort I live, in comfort I move, in comfort I have my being. When you need a little more joy, in joy I live, in joy I move, and in joy I have my being. In God we live, God we move, and have our being. So good to know, so good to know where we call home. Yeah. Yes, yes. In God we live, move, and have our being, because wherever we are in our thoughts, wherever we are in our experience, wherever we are in our feelings, God is right there. And that is why we can affirm, and that is how we can know that all is absolutely well in truth. And it's so beautiful and so good to know that truth. It's why the first step of affirmative prayer is the most important step. God is. Where is God? Right here, right now. Where is God? It neither comes nor goes. Where is God? It is as dependable as this air that I'm breathing. Where is God? It is here. It is here. We don't have to look for God. We don't have to praise for God. We don't have to roll around on the ground and spit, holler, and slobber. We don't have to jump and dance for God. We don't have to be perfect for God to show up. If we are present right here, right now, and we are, then God is right there. The thing that you need is right there. The healing that you need is right there. The clarity that you need is right there. The joy that you need is right there. The freedom that you need is right there. The answer that you need is right there. The infinite possibility, the creative cause, the divine intelligence, the thinker that thinks all things, the holder of the planets in space is right here, right now. Oh my goodness, that is good news. That is good news. That is good news. That song is setting me on fire this morning, and I am grateful and thankful for it. Well, we have arrived at the completion of this message series. We started by first just looking at the foreword by Brian Stevenson, because it was so profound to really discuss why this series and this book is so important to read right now. And we're so grateful that the timing was just right. We wanted to do this series last year, and it would have been beneficial. But oh my goodness, to be able to do this series now in this way is incredibly beneficial and profound. In week 1, we started with calling all possibilians. In week 2, Pastor Yolanda brought us the sermon Bigger. And then week 3, Way Down the Hole. Week 4, Pastor Yolanda, Rule Your Kingdom. Last week, Hang in There. And now we are at the end of this book. We are at the end of this book. We have read the final chapters, and we now have the whole story. We now have the whole journey. We understand so many nuances about Anthony Ray Hinton and the life that he's lived, and the 30 years on death row, incarcerated and placed on death row for a murder and a crime that he did not commit. And I'm sure, like many of you, as you move through these final chapters, you were probably also moved to tears, because I know I was. I was very emotional reading about that moment when he found out that he was indeed going home, and reading about the effects of being on death row for so long, and how those things are still with him. And so he ends the book, chapter 24, Bang on the Bars. He ends the book in this way with these words. We have to find ways to recover after bad things happen. We have to make every ending be a happy ending. Every single one of us wants to matter. We want our lives and our stories and choices we made or didn't make to matter. Death row taught me that it all matters. How we live matters. Do we choose love or do we choose hate? Do we help or do we harm? Because there's no way to know the exact second your life changes forever. You can only begin to know that moment by looking in the rearview mirror. And trust me when I tell you that you never, ever see it coming. How we live matters. Now, we chose to read and study this book and to use it at this time for 2 very specific reasons. The first reason, and well, the 2 reasons are because of the dual pandemic that we're in, right? The first pandemic, of course, is the pandemic of systemic racism. Because this book, in a profound way, highlights the injustice that has caused the uprisings that we're seeing all around the United States and all around the world. And we recognize by reading this book and reading Anthony Ray Hinton's story, and Brian Stevenson, I believe he talks about Anthony Ray Hinton's story as sort of the poster child for injustice, right? The poster child for how awful the system is in the United States. But it helps us recognize that what's going on, it didn't just start with the murder of George Floyd, right? The murder of George Floyd is yet another expression of systemic racism that exists in the United States of America. That racism is baked into every fabric of society. It's systemic. And so that's why we're seeing that at every level, at every hand, from just the life of Anthony Ray Hinton and his experiences and the opportunities that he had and the opportunities that he didn't have, and what it was like to grow up in the South, in Alabama, and then seeing what happened to him just by virtue of being black, and that awful conversation that the officer has with him and tells him why he's going to be convicted of this crime, even if he's innocent, right? And so we're being shown again that this thing, it's in the fabric of society. And while we are grateful that Anthony Ray Hinton is alive and able to tell the story, his story and the horrific nature of it is akin to the horrific murder of George Floyd. But the second reason that it was important for us to do this, again, a dual pandemic, we also have the global COVID-19 pandemic. And it's interesting because Anthony Ray Hinton's experience can help us navigate this viral pandemic. Because similarly, if we look at his story and we look at our current experience, our lives changed seemingly in a flash. We came into 2020 and we were, people were affirming 2020 vision, and we expected 2020 to outplay in a certain way, outpicture in a certain way. But things have changed, and it seems like it just happened overnight. It feels like it. Much like Anthony Ray Hinton, our days, our weeks, our months over these past 6 months have been filled with uncertainty. There's the looming question, when will this end? Just as there was the looming question for him, when will I be set free? When will my innocence be claimed? When will I get to go home and see my mama? We're doing things that we've never done before. Filling up with hand sanitizer and wearing masks everywhere we go, and parents are homeschooling and teachers are home teaching, and all of these crazy things are happening that are completely taking us out of our routine, that have completely taken us out of our habit, completely taken us out of our comfort zones, and completely taking us out of what was considered normal prior to the onslaught of this pandemic. And then, similarly to Ray's experience, death is happening all around us. I gave you a number last week of over 5,000 souls that had transitioned in the week, and between last Sunday and today, and yesterday rather, 4,972 souls have transitioned in the United States of America from COVID-19. And while we are blessed and grateful and fortunate that we in New York, we have flattened the curve and the number of deaths are very low, any death is felt. Every transition represents family and loved ones that are moving through the grieving process. And then this week, we were made aware of the gross injustice behind COVID-19. The injustice of 45 who willfully downplayed the seriousness of the virus. And this news hits us as we are inching closer and closer to 200,000 souls transitioned. And so in the midst of this experience, these dual pandemics, we can glean a lot of wisdom, we can glean a lot of knowledge, and we can learn some lessons that can be applied to what we are doing now. Now, we know how the journey ended for Ray. As we are still in the midst of this pandemic, I was noting and reflecting, this week marks 6 months for us. It was March 15th was our first service that we were streaming only, and we've continued to do that Sunday after Sunday. It's been 6 months. Now, we know how the journey ended for Ray. I was moved to tears when I read this line, when we got to that moment of the phone call between Brian Stevenson and Ray, and he says, "Ray, you're going home. They dropped all the charges against you. You're going home, my friend. You're finally going home." But as I was moved to tears, tears of joy and tears of release and tears of relief, As the reader, we must face a brutal fact. Yes, Anthony Ray Hinton was finally allowed to go home. Yes, the charges were dropped, and he was allowed to go home, but 30 years on death row had left scars that he writes only Lester and Brian really see. He says, I create an alibi for every single day of my life. I live in fear this could happen to me again. I don't trust anyone but Lester and Brian. It was so heartbreaking to read that first day when he and Lester takes him out to eat, and they go to the buffet. It was probably a Golden Corral or Old Country buffet. I could see it. I could smell it. And having been in death row for so long, that moment when he didn't have money to pay and he was scared, and I could just feel all of the fear that must have risen up in him, that this is how he was going to be thrown back in jail after having only experienced the sun shining for just a few hours. But in spite of all of this, Ray leaves us with some important words. He leaves us with some important words of wisdom where we are, so that we can glean and apply it to our own life experience. How we live matters. I want to read it again where he says, how we live matters. Do we choose love or do we choose hate? Do we help or do we harm? Because there's no way to know the exact second your life changes forever. We did not know. January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, as we move throughout that month and even in February, we did not know that our life would change forever. You can only begin to know that moment by looking in the rearview mirror. And trust me when I tell you that you never, ever see it coming. So if how we live matters, then how must we live? And I want to just look at two key points, two key ideas, and I pray that it supports you where you are. One of the ideas is something that we talk about so often at CSC. And I actually shared a article on Facebook yesterday. Was in Real Simple magazine. The title of the piece is The Happiest of Rituals. And it features an interview with Dr. Laurie Santos. She's a professor of psychology at Yale. She's also the host of the Happiness Lab podcast. And in that interview, she says this: one thing to note is that we think that happiness is about our circumstances, what job we have or how much money we make, but really, happiness stems from our behaviors. People who take time to make social connections, people who do random acts of kindness, people who prioritize things like exercise and sleep, all of those folks tend to be happier. Now, we can think back as we look through Ray's story and we look through his experience specifically on death row, we can see this is how he was able to find happiness even on death row, which seemed impossible. I continue to be fascinated by the level of joy he was able to find, by the level of happiness he was able to find. But when we understand this from this psychological perspective, well, what did he do? Right? He created his own, what I call happiness habits. Right? He made social connections. He performed acts of kindness. He created the book club. He fostered conversations with his brothers on death row, even to the point where he writes, I've made a home here and a family out of some of the most terrifying men you'd meet. And you know what I've learned? We're all the same. He befriended a man who was a racist and was taught to be racist by his family and was on death row because of a racist killing, racist murder. And he befriended that brother. We see him exhibiting so much love as we read that he had these great conversations with the guards, and the guards loved him, and he gave them advice as well. Right? He had moved to this place of learning to live from the heart. And so we recognize that as we are in this moment, we have the opportunity to do similar things, right? To develop happiness habits. One of the things that we're going to be doing on Sunday after next, the 27th, the teaching, what we're going to do is our class, Practice to Practice. We've shared out the PDF during the Thrive series, and I know many of you have downloaded it and are using it, but we're going to actually teach the class. We're going to go section by section to make sure that everybody understands how to develop a 5-5-5 habit, right? 5 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of affirmative journaling, 5 minutes of inspirational reading, and making that a happiness habit. There's so many other, of course, wonderful things you can do here, making social connections, doing random acts of kindness, prioritizing exercise and sleep. But prioritizing exercise was something that I chose to do and really needed to do in the midst of this pandemic, and it has been incredibly beneficial. The first 2 months, I did not do that. And so moving in these last 4 months, it has been incredibly beneficial to my mind, soul, and body to prioritize that. And even prioritizing naps, right, is awesome, right? So think about what that is for you. And again, we're going to support you on the 27th in developing your daily spiritual practice, which is to me, a non-negotiable happiness habit, which is why it's one of the guiding principles of CSC, that daily spiritual practice is not an option. And I'm sure that for many of you, this is incredibly familiar. You've read thousands of articles about this. We did a whole sermon series on happiness, and you could go back to that. We did another series on God's will is for your perfect happiness based on that idea. So it's something that we've talked about and something that is written about and talked about so often. But I want to dig a little deeper, and I pray that this meets you where you are. And if it ain't for you, just push it on aside, right? Maybe it's something that you want to come back to later, but it's something that's really been on my heart and my mind this week. Because the gravity of the news that 45 knew about COVID-19, the gravity of the news of how early he knew, and the gravity of how lucid and cavalier he sounds in those conversations with Bob Woodward, it almost took me out this week, y'all. PY can tell you, I was really messed up, and it was even hard to talk about it, just to share the news with her because she hadn't read it yet, or heard it yet. I was sharing that news with her through tears because I was thinking about the loved ones, people that are near and dear to my heart that are no longer here. And I was thinking about the Zoom funeral that I performed, and I'm thinking about all of my friends and family who have lost friends and family. I'm thinking about one of my dear friends, known for almost forever. Right, today is her birthday. She's a twin. Her twin brother transitioned from COVID this spring. And I can just feel and think about the grief that she's moving through right now, and can really only imagine what that must be like for her. And then to hear this news, it was almost too much, y'all. It was just almost too much. And many of you may have seen on Facebook, I posted, I said I wept. I wept for those that are grieving. I wept for those who are still in the hospitals right now, moving through the experience of COVID-19. I wept for those who are experiencing the after effects of having been ill with COVID-19 and not knowing if these effects are something that will be with them for the rest of their life. I wept for every essential worker that put their lives on the line for the greater good. One of the things that we find in looking at Anthony Ray Hinton's journey is that it was not all happy moments. It was not all rainbows and sunshine. And yet we can say that it is a triumphant story, and yet we can say it's a victorious story, and yet we can say that it has a happy ending. And I think this is incredibly important for us to understand. You've heard me say it many times that here at CSC, we do not teach metaphysical principles as some sort of happiness shield. We do not teach magical thinking. Here at CSC, we do not teach these principles so that then can be used in a way to deny the experience of life. but we teach these principles to support you in moving through the experience of life. And so throughout the past 6 months, everyone in their own way has tried to make sense of what's going on. This is crazy. Again, we're in something that just seemed to come out of nowhere, right? And this has led many in New Thought to quickly run to metaphysical meanings and interpretations. And at the extreme, unfortunately, even New Thought ministers have embraced and are communicating conspiracy theories and calling COVID-19 a hoax. The same can even be said when we think about the racial injustice and the murder of George Floyd. There are a whole bunch of folks that we're still waiting to just simply affirm that Black Lives Matter. And when I say folk, I'm talking about so-called spiritual folks. I'm talking about people in the New Thought movement, let alone realizing and recognizing how their privilege has played a role in their success, let alone starting to look around and say, wait, why are there only white people at this conference? Look around and say, wait, why do we only have white authors at our publishing company? Look around and ask these deeper questions. But for many, we're still waiting for them just to affirm something as simple as Black Lives Matter. And within the New Thought metaphysical movements, one of the other things that I'm seeing, some people are calling this moment a great awakening. It might be a great awakening. But you know what? I have neither the time nor bandwidth to ponder that. Because how we live matters. See, we teach, and you've heard us teach this so often about the still small voice, that there's a still small voice. There's a knocking at the door of your mind or knocking at the door of your heart. That's life is always trying to get our attention. Life is a conversation. That's true. And that's always the case. This moment is not unique. This moment, like all moments, is an opportunity to answer the call for love. But it's very important that we don't make this moment, this particularly as many are grieving and as many are hurting and as many are moving through that experience, to simply quickly go to this idea of a great awakening. Because see, if it's a call for love, then we talked about what love was in the first week. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious, works not evil, knows not pride, is not rude, neither selfish, is slow to anger, imagines no mischief, rejoices not in injustice, but delights in justice, defends all, believes all, hopes all, bears all, never exhausts itself. And so there's a question. Is it loving from this perspective? To talk about a great awakening when people are being evicted, families are being evicted? Is it loving to talk about a great awakening when 4,000 plus people are dying each week unnecessarily? Is it loving to talk about a great awakening when families are standing in line for food, when families cannot visit their loved ones in the hospital, and when we don't know the long-term effects of this virus, and what we are learning seems to be very unsettling? Is it loving to quickly go to this place? See, again, I say how we live matters. And from this perspective, yes, how we live matters. As we talked about the first point, we create our happiness habits. There are things that we need to set up in our lives to create happiness and ease and joy. Anthony Ray Hinton did the same. But how we live matters also means how we act, how we are living in terms of how we are interacting. And I believe it is incredibly unloving to quickly go to spiritualizing what's going on when we are in the midst of people experiencing great pain and grief. How we live matters. We know the acronym THINK. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspirational? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Because how we live matters. Before you post, ask yourself that. Think. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it helpful? Is it inspirational? Is it kind? Before you quickly go to the metaphysical response, can you offer that person just words of love, words of comfort? Can you offer a prayer? See, because again, this is what Anthony Ray Hinton did. And this is why it's beautiful to consider and think about the way that he lived his life. And as much as he feels like the death row Jesus, right, as much as it feels like he was able to do something that the rest of us would never be able to do, he is a flesh and blood man just like you and me, perfect and imperfect. And he tapped into something very powerful from this awareness of how we live matters. How we live in the midst of the experience matters. How we talk to each other in the midst of this experience matters. How we love or not love on each other in the midst of this experience matters. Because what does he say? What did he write? Do we choose love or do we choose hate? Do we choose help or do we choose harm? And I believe that in this moment, to go to that deep metaphysical, pseudo-spiritual, great awakening talk, it's not choosing love, and it's not choosing help. And so I was reminded of something. I think I bring this up all the time when PY and I are having our talks and discussions, but I was reminded of it this week. And you know, growing up in church, you know, we get a lot of Bible, you hear a lot of Bible, you memorize a lot of Bible verses. And, you know, from as early as I can remember, you know, learning the books of the Bible and memorizing verses. And there's one verse, it's probably the shortest verse in the King James Version, because it's only 2 words. And so there's just always a running joke that if you could at least quote one thing from the Bible, you could quote this one verse. And it's John 11:35, Jesus wept. Right? If you don't know no other Bible, you can't quote anything else. Somebody could always quote Jesus wept. And I was reminded of this verse. And this verse, of course, comes from the story of Lazarus. It comes from this profound miracle story that's only found in the Gospel according to John, of Lazarus being raised from the dead. And there's a couple interesting things that are happening in this story. Now, in the beginning of the text, what we get is, I'm just going to say, and I'm inserting myself here, that Jesus was feeling himself. And why do I say that? Because Jesus was in another town, a ways away, and word got to him that his friend Lazarus was sick, very sick, and so sick that they believed that he would possibly die. But of course, they knew Jesus, and Lazarus knew Jesus. So it's like, yo, go get the miracle, man, because I don't want to die, right? And I say Jesus was sort of feeling himself because he was like, you know, he'll be fine. I'll get there when I get there. I'm paraphrasing again. This is the Greg Stamper version of the resurrection of Lazarus. And so he was feeling himself so much and so confident, and you know, he gives very Jesus-y words about, you all will see, you know, the miracle fulfilled and the Son of Man and God will be glorified, right? He gives all of that language. He stays where he is for 2 more days. Although there was urgency, so much urgency that they sent for him, he stays 2 more days. And so he had stayed so long to the point that, you know, it was, by the time Lazarus was dead, he had been dead for 4 days. And so even as he finally says, you know, he's like, let's go and go see Lazarus, right? Still, he was talking real deep and real confident about what he was going to do. And so first, before he actually gets to town, he's met by Martha. Right? And when he's met by Martha, you know, she's saying to him, you know, if you had gotten here earlier, you know, my brother would be alive. And she's, you know, distraught and letting him know that Lazarus is dead. And so then finally he moves forward and actually gets to town, and that's where he meets Mary. And this is what we read. This is John 11:32 through 39. I'm reading from the New Revised Standard Version. When Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she knelt at his feet and said to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who came with her also weeping, he was greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. He said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. Jesus began to weep. So the Jews said, See how he loved him. But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying? Then Jesus, again greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone was lying against it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." And of course, after he says, "Take away the stone," he speaks those words, "Lazarus, come forth." And Lazarus comes forth with all of the wrappings around him, as he had already been buried according to the Jewish customs and tradition of the time. Now, there's some key things here, what I want us to appreciate here is something very profound about Jesus and this example that we have here. Because earlier in the text, Jesus is very confident and basically says, like, I'm going to raise him from the dead and God will be glorified. But then he had an experience. And in this story, first of all, this story only exists in this one gospel. And there's something that the writer of this story does, I believe, to indicate how close he was to Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. Because many of you know the story of the woman with the alabaster box. She takes this expensive oil and pours it all over Jesus' feet to anoint him and dries it with her hair. Now, where we read that story in the other Gospels, the woman is unnamed. There is no reason to believe that she is Mary. But in this story, the writer specifically says that that's who Mary is. And I believe that the writer does that so that we get a sense of the closeness and get a sense of how and why this would have meant something to Jesus. And so Mary and Martha, we also recognize as we look throughout the Gospels, we recognize that there were groups of women that supported the ministry of Jesus, that financially supported the ministry of Jesus. So we also know that they were very important to him. And so in that moment, he's Jesus, and yet he is faced with the reality of, my friend, Lazarus just died. My dear sisters, Mary and Martha, their brother just died. And so we don't get any more of Jesus talking all deep and talking about God is going to be glorified and I will raise him. We don't get any more of that super spiritual talk. It says, Jesus began to weep. And it was so significant that the onlookers, the Jews, because they were in Judea, the Jews said, see how he loved him. Others just immediately was like, well, why he crying? Can't he just heal him? Can't he just raise him from the dead? He could have kept him from dying, right? There's always people like that. Jesus wept. And I think this is important when we think about how we live and how it matters and what love does and living from the heart and allowing ourselves to be in that moment and in that space with yourself or with your sisters or brothers who are moving through this experience, because we have a reason to weep right now, y'all. And that may be the most loving response. That may be the most comforting response. That may be the nurturing response. So even with the awareness of the possibility of resurrection, Jesus wept. But there's something else that I noticed here that I had never noticed before. Because after you got those people talking about, could he not open the eyes of the blind man? He who opened the eyes of the blind man, couldn't he have kept this man from dying? It says, then Jesus again, greatly disturbed, came to the tomb. And what I began to see in my mind's eye was, even in the moment as he's at the tomb to witness yet another miracle, he was still greatly disturbed. He was still weeping, because that's what it said. It says here before the text, he says he came to Martha. Jesus saw, Mary weeping, and the Jews who came with her were also weeping. So there's a crowd of people, of mourners. Everyone is sad. And it says he was greatly disturbed and deeply moved, greatly disturbed in spirit and deeply moved. And then it says even he began to cry. And at the moment that he approaches the tomb, he's still greatly disturbed. At the moment that he's still in that expression of living from the level of the heart, he's still greatly disturbed, but he was also greatly confident. Greatly confident not in his power, but greatly confident in the power that was operating through him. And it is only because of that power that was operating in, through, and as him that the miracle could take place. And so how we live matters, y'all. This is not the time to be woke and deep and extra spiritual. Jesus didn't even do that. So please take yourself off the hook if you were trying to do that. If you were trying to apply some lesson from A Course in Miracles, meanwhile you're sad. If you were trying to read Ernest Holmes and make it make sense, but it doesn't make sense right now, you just want to cry. Or you were trying to just find something to share with a friend, a loved one, a coworker, a colleague, a neighbor that's moving through any one of these COVID-related experiences and after effects. Be loving. Because how we live matters. Anthony Ray Hinton showed us that. Yes, he was on death row, wrongly convicted, incarcerated, and sentenced to die for murders that he did not commit. In the midst of a racist, unjust system that was set up and designed and supported by and continually encouraged by racist cops and prosecutors and folks that just didn't care. But he leaves us with this wisdom. Yes, even in the midst of that, how we live matters. And Ray gives us the powerful example. He asks us the question. It feels too simple, but the profoundest truths always are simple. Do we choose love or do we choose hate? Do we help or do we harm? Keep that decision gate before you. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspirational? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Keep the miracle worker's prayer with you. Asking first, Spirit, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? And what I always love to add most of the time, the saying is nothing. Be silent. Be a loving presence. Be patient. Be kind. And with that, I invite everybody to just take a deep breath in. And we exhale. We breathe in. And we breathe out. There is only one mind, only one power, only one presence, only one creative cause, only one divine intelligence, only one ground, foundation of all being. It is the self-existing one. It is that which never exhausts itself. It is known by many names. It is recognized by as many names. I choose to simply call it Mother, Father, God. For it is the beginning and the end. It holds all. It knows all. It bears all. It loves all. And as I recognize and remember that God is, I unify my heart, my mind, and my soul with the remembrance that I am one with it and one of it, with the remembrance that you, my brother, you, my sister, are one with it and one of it. Your roots have never been plucked out of this ground. Your roots can never be plucked out of this ground. You are intimately and intricately connected to the ground of all being, intimately and intricately connected to love itself, intricately and intimately connected to freedom and healing and joy and peace and ease itself. For it is here now, and we are here now. And so it is out of this profound awareness that I speak these words in faith. I am so very grateful and thankful for the life of Anthony Ray Hinton. I am so grateful and thankful for the lessons that he has taught us, the lessons that were hard fought and won, so that we can apply them to this moment in our life and times. I'm grateful and thankful for his willingness to be a vessel and a channel for love. I'm grateful and thankful for his willingness to operate in faith, even when it seems so hard to do. I am so grateful and thankful for his willingness to operate in hope, even when it seemed so hard to do. I'm so grateful and thankful for the life and the presence and the wisdom of you operating in, through, and as Anthony Ray Hinton, and operating in, through, and as Brian Stevenson. For they have given us gold. They have given us great wealth that we can apply to this moment and this time. And so we take those words to heart. How we live matters. Choosing love or choosing hate matters. Choosing help or choosing harm matters. So we open up our hearts, our minds, we open up our eyes and our ears so that we may be aware. Remove every lens that keeps us from seeing where we are using our privilege against our brothers and sisters. Remove every lens that keeps us bound and separated and has us seeing division where there isn't. Remove every lens that has us thinking only of ourselves when we recognize that the self is all that we are. There's a bigger self that we are a part of. Remove the lens that keeps us separated, because how we live matters. So from this day forward, for as long as this experience lasts, we are choosing love. We are choosing kindness. We are choosing patience. We are choosing to delight in justice. We are choosing to bear all. We are choosing to mourn with those who mourn. We are choosing to bear all, to comfort those who are in need of comfort. We choose to bear all, to provide where we are able to give from our overflow, so that we all have more than enough. I am so grateful and thankful for these words of truth. I'm so grateful and thankful because I know that the word that has been spoken is met, received, and is already done. So I now live in the space of rejoicing. I now bask in the sun of rejoicing. And I let the light of love lead the way. I let the light of love guide me. We let the light of love guide us each and every day. For this I am grateful. Together we lift up our voices and we say, Amen, Ashe. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you, God.
So it is, and so it is, and so it is.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes.
We are choosing to live as love on the earth.
Absolutely.
Not just in our minds, not just in our readings, but how we show up on this planet.
It really matters, y'all.
It really matters.
It really matters. Yeah.
So we take these words of Anthony Ray Hinton, we take PG's words, we take all the texts that we learn, that we've indoctrinated ourselves with, and then we show up as it.
Yes.
We allow love to guide us in what it is that how we're supposed to live, and how we're supposed to move.
Yes, yes.
Because how we live matters.
Yes.
Thank you, PG.
Yes. Whew. Well, again, I pray that this message has met you where you are. Pray that you come back to it as needed. In this moment, it is time for us for giving. And I'm going to get my phone because I haven't done my giving yet.
Me too, that's right.
But
Do it live.
we teach here at CSC what is, I think, just the simplest understanding in giving. That giving is really just like breathing. We inhale and we exhale. We have to exhale in order to make room to inhale again. And when we inhale, we can't hold that air. We must release it again.
Yes.
And that's what's happening when we're giving. Also, when we breathe in and breathe out, there's no worry. When we breathe in and we breathe out, there's no fear. When we breathe in and breathe out, there's no shame, there's no guilt. You're not worried about your name being put on a list because you exhaled too little air, right? None of that stuff happens. And so when we say give what feels good, that's what we're talking about. That the same consciousness, the same mindset that allows you to breathe in freely, knowing that there's more than enough, and exhale freely, knowing that there's more than enough. That's the space that we give from.
Yes.
And so if you'd like to give, it's very easy. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or just go to the website and scroll down to the giving section. You'll see everything there. Or you can text to give, 347-744-9500. There's a $10 minimum for texting to give. Whichever way you choose to give, we appreciate it.
Yes.
Whichever way you choose to give, it will continue to support the growth and unfoldment of CSC, allowing us to stream and bring these messages and classes and all of the wonderful things that happen at CSC. And also, it supports us in giving to others. We will... in this month, we'll make an official announcement, but we are going to be giving in support of the Equal Justice Initiative
Yes.
this month as we've been studying this text. And so as an organization, we think it's very important that CSC as an organization embodies the same truth of giving, right? CSC can't just be breathing in, and not exhaling, because it wouldn't work, right? It wouldn't work. And so CSC must exhale as well. And so your giving supports all of that. And so when we give from this space and place, giving what feels good, giving from this knowledge, then we can affirm this profound and powerful truth that all the money that I use
returns
to me multiplied in a never-ending cycle of increase and enjoyment. Yes. And so with that, we take a very joyous offering. We're so grateful for each and every one of you. It's so good to be here with all of you each and every week. We are excited to let you all know that we are going to be hitting the road later this afternoon.
Countdown.
Driving to Montauk, and we're going to spend some time this week resting and relaxing. It has been 6 months. There has been a lot to hold and do and be throughout these 6 months that we're grateful to be able to do and to hold and be. It's what we said yes to, and we're clear about that. We trained for this, and at the same time, a happiness habit is prioritizing rest and relaxation. So we're looking forward to spending that time. You'll probably see us posting. Well, you'll see me posting some pictures on social media.
Yeah, he'll do the posting.
Real talk.
I'll just do the observing. I'll do the relaxing. He can post.
Yes. So, but know that we love you all, and we look forward to being with you again next week. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy the rest of the week. Stay in love, and remember that
There will be a message on Sunday.
yes, next Sunday it will be pre-recorded, but yeah, you'll still.
We got you.
Yeah, we got y'all. Right. So all is well. So we love y'all, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon.
Love
okay?
you. Bye for now.